Hello, how are you doing? Good
I'm
to see you.
good to see you too. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for your sweet message. I felt bad about the eggs, but made me feel a bit better.
I could tell I was just smiling while I was, reading all your and seeing all your videos, thinking like, yeah, this is everyone, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? This is what motherhood is. And it's,
it's
you
crazy.
said that you were crying there, and I was like, yeah, it's having to switch these emotions from like anger to frustration to shouting to just taking it all in and
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
feeling the emotion that you're feeling in that moment. And
yeah.
it was beautiful. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. How was your week? Thank you for your email.
Yeah, I've had a really good week, to be honest. It's just been little things like the email that I sent you,
Mm,
something like this morning, and I could see like I'm so aware of where it's coming and what he's feeling now, and
mm,
that's why he reacts in this way. But at the same time, I'm like, what can I do when I'm in these situations? You know what I mean? Because I can't be there, my nonstop, constant, there to
yeah,
like this morning. I just, he was very kind of like on edge in a way. And it questioned me. I was like, should I not? Like, I could see that he was jealous. So
yeah.
James woke up in the middle of the night around 2 o'clock, which he never does.
Mm,
And um, my partner went to him 4 times.
yeah,
And then he kind of like shook me and he said, okay, can you go to him? Can you try? So I went to him and he was like finding any excuse out there just to kind of have some comfort. So first he needed a hug, and then he said that his bum was itchy, and then he said that he needed his bear, and then he's like, I want to pee in the potty. I'm like, you have a nappy on. So I'm
mhm,
like, okay, let's pee in the potty, whatever. Anyways, when we woke up this morning, I asked him, I was like, what happened last night? You never wake up. What was that about? And then he was like, I was scared. I
yeah.
was like, what happened? And he's like, there was a he's so sweet. There was a dinosaur on the bed, and he had big, big eyes. And I was like, oh, and it melted me. It just melted me because I remember just making like it's his imagination. That's his,
Yeah.
what's going on in his head.
Mm,
And I just like went to him and I gave him a big hug, and I was like, oh, I know that's so scary, but there's no monsters. There's no dinos. Don't worry. Mommy's here. Mommy's always looking from the camera. Just saying these little things. And
mm,
then while he was having breakfast, I don't know why I said this, but he was drinking his milk. And then I was like, you drink your milk, dinos are scared of milk. And it was something ridiculous, but Luca was like, um, dinos drink milk too.
okay.
I was like, okay, yeah. And I let it go. And then it was something else again, and he said the same thing, like kind of like stopping or not wanting to get involved with our conversation, but kind of like just shutting it down in a way. And I
Mm,
said to him, Luca, if you don't want to get into our imagination with us, like just be quiet.
mhm,
And it just irked me. And then I heard your voice in the background, and I was like, I remember thinking to myself, I should have just acknowledged he's a big boy, and he knows better.
mm,
And but in that moment, I just felt frustrated with him. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, yeah, but I know that he's done that because he felt jealous. He felt
Mm,
jealous because I was hugging James and I was like interacting with him, kind of thing. And I think when I do that with James, he gets in a way, but that stops me from actually interacting with James, and I don't like it. And I'm like, I
mm,
don't need to do that because he's getting jealous because he has me nonstop, especially this week. He has
mm.
chickenpox, so he's home.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been nice. But yesterday there was like two little incidences. But again, you came into my head again with your video that you just showed, and I gave him the iPad.
Mm,
and he knows not to watch like Avenger stuff, any fighting stuff, because clearly like it influences him in a way.
Yeah.
And I was cooking in the kitchen, and then I looked over at him and I just smiled to him, and then he had a guilty face on. So I was like, I continued what I was doing. I was like, I bet you he's watching something right now. So I just walked over to him, and I see what he was doing, and then he's like, "Sorry, mom." I
Mm-hmm.
was like, and I just took the iPad and I put it away,
Yeah.
and I walked away.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a minute later, I went to the door next, like where he was sitting, and I said, do you think that was okay? And he's like, no. I was like, I trust you. Do you know what trust means? He's like, no. And I said, it means, I give you the ability to watch something like that. And if I say, do not watch something like that, I trust that you are going to listen and not actually do that. But that then again, it went back to me. Like that's when I said you came into my head. Like I can't give him the responsibility of saying, okay, here's the iPad and scoot off kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have to, but like that really, it put me in a different mood in a way. Like I let it go. I wasn't angry or anything like
Yeah.
that. I'm like, I was disappointed in a way. And then later on that same morning, like I brought a big bucket of water out so we can like water the plants in the garden. And I went back into the room to put the passy back into her mouth. And I came back out and he had dumped all the water out and it
Yeah.
was a giant bucket of water. I'm like, I'm not going to just waste water. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that's just, and I said, well, that was our activity. I was really looking forward to just planting, we had planted some seeds. And I was like, well, I was really looking forward to watering all the flowers in the garden, but I guess we're not going to do that right now because
Mm-hmm.
that's, I'm not wasting more water. And I was like, well, come on, do you want to stay out here? Do you want to go inside? And he's like, I want to go inside. I was like, okay, let's go inside. I was like, go play, go keep yourself busy.
Yeah.
And again, like it was just like a shitty feeling, And I'm
Yeah.
like, what can I do? He's a kid. He's going to do these kind of things. And
Yeah.
in that moment, I was like, what could have made him do that? And maybe when I had to go back in to put the passy in, like it wasn't a one-on-one thing, but that's what I mean. It's like there's never like a complete win. You know what I mean? There's never
Mm-hmm.
like, there's always going to be a little something, but I
Yeah.
want to be able to not let those two actions impact my mood for the rest of the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I was very distant to him, and he was like, "Mom, can we play?" And I was like, Luca, I just want to clean up a little. The house was a complete mess, and I was like, I just want to clean up a little bit. If you want, you can help me. You can join in with me if you want to organize these
Yeah.
things with me. And he's like, he didn't say anything, and he just went back into the living room and watched TV. So I was like, okay. So I just had the
Yeah.
music on, blasting the music, and yeah, we kind of carried on, just kind of like separately throughout the morning
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
And then I said to him in the afternoon, I'm sorry I didn't play very much with you. I did feel a little bit frustrated. And he's like, why? And I was like, well, it wasn't really nice when you dumped all that water out. And it wasn't nice when you did that with your iPad. These two things really, like, it upset mommy. And he's like, oh. And then he just went quiet.
Mm. Yeah.
But I mean, it's been great. Like, he's been really, really sweet. So, so sweet. Like, when he
Mm.
brought home those flowers, like, he just came
Yeah.
home one day, like, Adrian went to the shop with him and he just brought home flowers. And he's like, Mom, look what I got you.
Mm.
And he had said to me, um, I'm sorry for hitting somebody.
Okay.
And I was like, you hit someone? And he
Mm-hmm.
had just came back from school. And Adi looked at me. He's like it wasn't that, but I think it was from the 2 days or the incident before that. And I was like, no, it's okay, baby. Like, I really appreciate these flowers. Thank you. It's really sweet of you, kind of thing.
Mm. Yeah.
But yeah, it was just really nice. So
Yeah.
he's been a lot more, helpful and things like that. But it breaks my heart when he has chicken pox like this because he can't really be around his sister, and it gets to him. I can see.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm mumbling on now.
That's okay. It needs to come out. But when you say, just to circle a bit back to that you didn't feel so angry, you kind of, not kind of, you actually did implement that natural consequence thing. Okay,
Mhm.
this is what happened, then we cannot do that. That's it. How do you feel that you can do this now, and that you're still disappointed?
I felt great. I felt great that I wasn't angry, but it also that natural consequence gets me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because I have to put Mia to sleep, and sometimes it takes me 15, 20 minutes where I'm like, Luke, go in the other room, play with your iPad.
Yeah.
And he does. And yesterday, after I'd taken the iPad away, when I went back into the room, he was just sitting there. Like he just
Mhm.
sat there. And I'm like, you can play with your toys. Why don't you play? And he's like, no.
Mm.
I mean, it made me feel bad,
Yeah.
And that was one day, which is great. He cooked really well. Of course, he has his iPad back today, but I'm thinking, like, I don't think that's always going to be the case where he's just going to be able to sit there quietly, and wait patiently until I come back. And I always say to him, like, thanks for waiting so patiently. Like, you're amazing.
Yeah. But
But
you
yeah,
said it made you feel bad that he waited, that he was just sitting there waiting. Yeah. What, can you tell me more about that?
yeah, I just felt, he's 5 years old and he's just sitting there on the couch in silence. I'm like, I just felt bad.
Because
I don't know. In my head, I'm like, do something, like play with your,
Mhm.
like this is the thing. He cannot play by himself. He
Mhm.
needs me there constantly.
Yeah.
And when I'm having to put his sister to sleep, he chose to just sit there.
Mhm. I remember you telling me in the beginning that you are a doer. You love doing things.
Yeah,
Mhm. Could it be that you're seeing the situation from your perspective, through your lens of what fulfillment means?
perhaps. I mean, for 5 years old, to just sit there on the couch for 15 minutes while I was putting her to sleep, I'm like, I would have been drawing. I would have been exploring the toys that I have or like keeping myself busy. But maybe
Yeah.
it's because he wasn't feeling well, you know.
Mhm.
He's just low in energy. He's had a fever. He's really coping horribly with the chicken pox. Like
Yeah.
James was one day he was a bit more whingy and whiny, but Luca's like, oh, it hurts and they're
Yeah.
so different. It's
He's
so
also older, so he's experiencing it differently.
probably, yeah, yeah,
And maybe what he needed, what his mind and his body needed, was just to sit,
yeah,
get the serenity of doing nothing,
it's true.
especially when he's not feeling so well. Just um just a perspective, when we raise our kids, we have these memories from how it used to be, playing, running, doing stupid things, having fun. And then when we see a child who is not really particularly doing anything, not really engaging, just sitting somewhere, that immediately triggers some sort of sadness and boredom in
Mm,
us that we want to fix, or we want to like support. Can feel better, be like cheerful, and be happy, be like a child.
mm,
And sometimes, especially kids that live so much in their feelings, if they do that, it's actually a nice sign that they can feel what they have to feel and do what like they feel doing in that moment. So um, even though he is a bit difficult playing alone, that will never change. That's his profile. I will send you his human design chart. I finished it yesterday.
Cool.
You can read through it and you will understand certain things about him that will just never ever change.
Oh my God. I'm like, it's not a phase.
It's not a phase.
Oh
It will get easier the more he learns to work with his profile, with his type, with his personality, the more he understands, yes, I need actually others. I need interaction. I am not the type of kid that plays imaginary things with their toys. I'm a different type of kid. I like doing other things. And that is something that will always follow him throughout, especially then in his first phases of his career and when he will have a family by himself. So that's something that he just needs to be aware of. And as something that you can teach him. I included also a few tips on how you and him can work things out better and how you can explain him who he is. And when you see him, just as an example, when you see him sitting there and he's not playing, but in your mind, you're like, well, you have so many nice toys, just go play. That is not really helping him because that arrives here in his brain, but the feeling of play and joy and fulfillment sits in the body. So he cannot connect the two. Your message is like a theoretical thing. Yeah, I know I have toys, but I don't feel it.
Mm.
So what do you feel? Are you okay sitting here? What were you thinking? It looks like you're thinking. How is it just to sit here hearing nothing? How did that feel for you? How was that for you? And very often it's so fine for the kids. Sometimes they also say, well, I'm sad that I don't have anyone to play with.
Mm.
And that will always be the case because there will always be moments when he will feel bored because he has nobody to play with. So what can you do? I know that's your personality. You know what? Look at that's you. You thrive from other people's energy. He thrives from receiving from others. That's why he's always looking out. And
Is
you,
that such a good thing?
it it's what it is. You cannot change it. It's what it is. You cannot change it.
Mm.
He can be aware of it. The more he's aware of it, the more he can understand, okay, mommy is not like in the mood to play with me. But I need something else. So where could I get that? He could also get that from his brother. That's what he's probably like trying a lot with what you described me in the email with like, kind of hitting him or kicking him.
Oh
He's
yeah.
just, he's
Forgot
just
about that.
trying to get energy. He's just trying to get some sort of impulse from outside.
They were having such a blast on that trampoline, you know. It was like they were running, the jumping and chasing
Mm.
each other, and then randomly he just like kicks him and then just
Yeah.
like looks on the window to see like did somebody see that?
Yeah.
I'm like, what was that? Why? Like,
Yeah.
why? Like
Yeah.
James is just such a happy little boy who just loves to have fun and play, and
Mm-hmm.
it broke my heart because James is just, he didn't deserve that. You know what I mean?
No, no. But that's also look at trying to understand how far he can go and what happens if he does something. He's still in that phase of experimenting relationships. What can I do? And what if I do that, what happens then? He's still in that what if and what happens then.
Mm.
That is just learning relationships for him. And as hurtful as it is, he needs to learn that. So he needs to learn that natural consequence if he kicks his brother. The natural consequence is that his brother is hurt and doesn't want to play more with him. But energy and response from others is so important for him. So he will learn the more he goes through that it's not beneficial for him to do that because he will not get what he actually wants. He actually wants to be close and be friends and be together. So that is the step of the natural consequence for him. What does that mean for the relationship you have with your brother? like similar to what you explained him. Like it's not if you want to have friends, like you want to have friends, yes. That means that the energy you give someone and how you treat someone will come back to you. And this is what he's currently learning. So that's why there's also so much conflict with his, I don't want to say aggression, but it's some level of aggression that he has. It's just not very, very high, but he's still trying with aggression to get a response and to see what's happening.
Mm.
When he will learn that anything he does, like everything he puts out there in the universe or in the world or in a relationship, something else will come back. It doesn't need to be aggression, but that's what at the moment gives him immediate response, gives him immediate feedback, because someone comes or someone says, hey, which is like the immediate thing that he's receiving.
The first thing I wanted to do was take James and play with James. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But that would exclude him in a way.
And why would you, talk me a bit through that thought of why you would like that.
Because, I want to show James, like, we could still have fun and play, and, like, you don't deserve to be treated in that way, like.
Yeah. However, the conflict between Luca and James is between Luca and James. By you coming in and playing with James, you're taking an active part in a conflict the two of them have. So they will, so James will also not learn how to deal with Luca, because these two will be brothers forever. He will have to learn to deal with Luca and Luca's sometimes disruptive behavior. So instead of playing with him, what he would benefit, and the relationship between the two of them would benefit, is if James learns how to respond to Luca when that happens. And you are absolutely right. He doesn't deserve to be treated like that. Nobody deserves that. How can you stand up for yourself and put your own boundary lovingly and still say, I enjoyed so much playing with you. He's still very little. So the verbal explanation will be, of course, adapted. But the natural consequence would be that I don't want to play with you, Luca. I need a break. That was not nice. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but Luca will always be, you can either look at it dependent on the energy of others and on relationships, or thriving on relationships and energy of others. So he's very sensitive. He immediately notices, that's also what's happening in school with teachers, if the energy is off, if someone has hesitations or a hidden agenda, he immediately feels that. He will always feel that. So for him, it's important to understand that what he feels is actually right. That's right. That's true. What he feels, what he senses. And he can look at those people who give him positive energy, who support him, and the others, they are not important for him. Instead of pushing to be, to get a response from them or build a relationship, that will not work for him. If it has to come from him, it will not work for him. Everything in his life is about being invited into a relationship, into play, being invited into experiences. If he has to push for it, it will not work for him. That's also what's happening in the relationship with James. So he's pushing him a lot. He's like teasing him a lot. And that's why it's not working. That's why he's not getting what he actually wants, because he's taking that step and pushing him. And when you are, going on the sushi dates with him, that's his invitation. That's your your heart or your energy portal, your availability, your presence is so open that like it's almost like a direct channel between the two of them. He's in there, he's there, he's with you, and then he cannot get out anymore because he's so into it, he's so focused on it because he needs this energy to thrive. And I could hear in the email that it was difficult to set your own personal boundaries so that you protect your own energy after some time. I mean, it's just not possible that it's tiring.
Yeah.
It's extremely tiring what you described me. But that's his personality, which is fine enough, but he needs to learn, and it's for him. It's not so much for you. It's more for him to learn how to deal with it, that it has nothing to do with him, but that he thrives on the energy of others. And if the others are not available, then he just needs to put a pause and a break and allow the other person to, you know, refill the battery and the energy so that they can be available again. It all seems a bit too sometimes spiritual or complicated or complex to tell kids that, to talk with kids about that, but it actually does help them to understand the dynamics. So feel free to tell him that. But I also included in his human design chart a few things that you can say to him that will help him understand himself. And that is the relationship that between the two of you that you have. This dynamics that you feel is challenging for you because you are so different. You are very different. And it's not that it's better or worse or complicated or easy. It's just, it's almost like trying to fit the ball in a square hole.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not, it's just hard. And yeah, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
But you are doing already well with letting the natural consequence deal with it. You know, that's just what it is. You were not allowed to watch anything else on the iPad than what I gave you, and that's it. So you're not trying to change his personality. You're teaching him how to handle and how to live with his personality, which is it's an amazing thing for him for the future. Yeah. How does that land with you?
Yeah, I'm curious to know with this chart.
Yeah, I'll send it to you after today. How was your school meeting?
I didn't tell you about that.
Oh, happened
Really?
last. Yeah, not yet.
Yeah. I went in there and I was so waiting to hear different things. Like because you see, I was waiting for this meeting for what, a week and a half, 2 weeks. I'm like, why isn't he like meeting with me? And he didn't feel that there was a need to meet, really, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
That after that one incident that you described or we heard about from the after school club, Luca has been, we've just seen a complete different side of Luca. He's just been interacting, he's been talking about feelings, he's been very kind with his peers, he's been, um, verbalizing his thoughts out loud. So he gave me an example, like he was building something and somebody else wanted a piece of what he was doing. And then he ended up saying, okay, if I give you this piece, my piece will be a bit smaller, but that's okay. Like, so he was just like very much interacting and very playful. And yeah, he's like, I don't, he's like, whatever whatever's happening, keep going with it because he's doing great. I don't really see a need to get him any emotional or extra support at school like you described. If this is really still what you want, we can look into it. And there was the behavioral specialist there, and she was like, but when he kept talking, I had to ask. I was like, so why are you here then? Like, with all due respect, but like, what are you doing here? And then he said that um something like, because I seem very concerned in my email and stuff, she just wants to give me a little bit of feedback or input with anything that I had to say. And she barely said two words while the whole meeting was happening. And I just said to the teacher, like, I just want to know like how he's being emotionally supported at school. And he gave me lots of different examples, and I was very happy with everything that I was hearing. I asked him, like, for example, when they said that they were doing some volcano activity thing, and Luca came home and told me about it. And I was like, how was it? Did you have fun? Did you join in? He's like, no. And then the teacher looked at me. He's like, that's not true. At first, he didn't join in, and he was very hesitant on doing anything. And then I went there and I explained to him, why don't we have a look on, see how everybody else is doing it? And if you feel like it, you join in too. If you don't, then just watch. And he did. He was observing at first, but after that, he was the one person who was there the longest. He was there experimenting and smelling and this and that. He had a blast. And I was like, so confused. I was like, why did he say that to me then? But yeah, he said that he's doing really, really well. He has nothing bad to say. He said this is a part of learning different behaviors and learning their boundaries and what they can. He's like, it's unrealistic to come into a classroom full of 4 or 5 year olds and actually see them interacting and behaving the way that we expect them to. It's just unrealistic. It's, you go into the sixth graders, then yeah, you'll see a completely different side of things. But here, this is part of the learning. It's not just learning it, the alphabets and things. It's learning how to socialize and interact and yada yada. And at first I was like, I didn't know what else to say. I was like, it sounds great. Okay. But I did say, I do feel that Luca, explained to them I was a stay-at-home mom and he had my one-on-one attention. And I do feel that this is what he's almost grieving in a way. And this is what I'm making sure to prioritize now, is he has this one-on-one attention with me and one-on-one time with me and things like that. And yeah, it was like it was a great meeting. I was very happy. I was very impressed. I was I felt great, considering, okay, this is clearly what Luca needs. Because there's no negative behaviors or no cry for help. You know what I mean? Like, that was clearly a cry for help of him not understanding even what the random kids acting off their emotions. And I don't think he even understood his own emotions of why he would just do that. And I think it's just continuing to help him understand safety and help him understand, trust with, what friendships are all about and things like that. And he's like, okay, well, yeah. Crap. I forgot to do that. There was a parent teacher night where it was like 7 minutes long and I had to book in. I completely forgot to do that. Whoops.
Oops.
Anyway, but we had that meeting anyway. So yeah.
You were very nervous before?
I
Or
was,
how did you feel?
no, when we were talking in the morning, I felt nervous. And then you said, like, you're in my head a lot, stuff. I just repeated myself when I was on my way there. I was like, it's because I care. I want to make sure that he's okay. And it's how much I love him. I want to ensure that he's being looked after and everything's okay. And it was.
Yeah.
So I felt confident. I felt good walking in there.
Excellent. What a positive meeting.
Right? Oh, it was great. It was really great. So I'm just hoping that continues. And I don't want to, even if, there is a little incident here or there, I just don't want it to impact me in the way that it does. And this is my biggest
Yeah.
issue, is when I hear something like this, it eats me alive. It literally, like, I can't focus. I can't think. I get a headache. What was it on Thursday? Like, what was it on Thursday? I can't remember what it was, but it was after I went to my osteopath, and I had a really bad migraine. I can't really remember what it was. but yeah, it was the same. It was something to do with Luca. Like he had done something that oh, the thing that I wrote to you actually. I think. But yeah, I just felt like I want to be able to take better control over that because I don't have that control right now of not allowing me to not allowing his actions to impact me in such a
Mm.
deep way. Because nothing else registers with me. If my partner's trying to talk to me, I'm like it just drain. I feel very drained in a way. Like my mind just sits there and just spirals out of control in a way. And I don't like it. It really impacts me in a really negative way.
What is it that your mind is spiraling about?
Why is he doing this? What can I do? How, like, what was the situation? What was the roots behind it? Was it jealousy? Was it this? Like, how can I make sure that, his needs are being met? How can I make sure I'm taking care of myself and not overdoing it or overwhelmed? It's just like me thinking and like
Mm.
coming up with solutions and trying to see roots and
Yeah,
everything that we pretty much do together. I'm doing it on a nonstop basis.
yeah. Which puts a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's just so draining. It's so draining where like I can instantly feel like my head like gets so heavy and
Mm.
like I know I'm gonna hurt my health by
Yeah,
continuing to do this. And I just don't know how to stop it.
yeah, yeah. By understanding the why, you think you would you will feel better? Do you feel better when you think about the why and you understand his root cause for his behavior?
For sure. It gives me a little bit of a okay, this is what I need to do.
Mm. The doing. Here comes the doing.
Exactly. It's
Mm.
like, okay, what am I missing here? Where was that behavior from? Because there's a root behind every behavior, you know?
Yes, yes. Every behavior is communication.
Exactly.
What's that
So, well,
communication? Yeah.
exactly. It's like a cry for help in my eyes. Like, what
Mhm.
is it?
Yeah,
What am I missing here? What can I do better?
yeah, yeah. The mm, the doing, the problem solving that you're jumping into is super helpful for future situations and to take away a learning from what happened. It also um, suffocates the time or the space that is needed to let this be.
Yeah.
It needs to be. There's always a chunk of time or a space that needs to happen before the solution. That helps to find a proper solution, because when your head is spinning, you're not thinking clearly because you are activated, right? You are activated either by fear, by worry, by self criticism, like what did I do? How can I do this? The how can I do this better is actually not kicking in yet because the mind is still spinning. And the solution that can come from the contemplating comes afterwards. So you can think of it, if this helps in a linear way, like when something happened, he kicked James, or he hit your leg or your foot. There needs to be this chunk of time, this space. It's like a bubble that just be. That's just it. It's similar to what happened with me when I entered the living room and I saw the stain, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Be here. Be here with a pain in the foot. Go off the trampoline. Just be here. And feel this as long as it needs to be felt. And even if it's for 5 hours, gets shorter the longer you do that, the more often you do that. But it need that chunk of time. You cannot jump that over. It needs to be there. And then comes the contemplating phase. So why? Like, what the hell? Like, what happened? Like, why is he doing this? I don't like this. and the contemplation is over. In the contemplation phase, you will not find solutions. You will not find answers in the contemplation phase. You will just think, and that's okay. You just think it through. The longer you think it through, the more you have with yourself what's like a circular internal conversation. If we have circular conversations with someone, with our partner or with our parents, we're like, okay, that's not leading anywhere. We're constantly talking about the same things without finding a solution. I don't want to talk more about this. I need a break. I cannot continue this. That's what we would do with someone external. We also need to do that with ourselves when we feel, okay, this is an internal circular conversation. The contemplation phase is finished. I have thought of all the things I need to think, but I cannot find a solution like this. So I'm going to stop it.
How?
Do you know?
I'm so aware of I'm overthinking this, like just okay, like it's enough. And it doesn't stop. It just my mind constantly brings me back there.
Yeah.
And it's such a struggle.
Yeah. There is um, a tool from, I don't know if you know metacognitive psychology. It's how we think about our thinking. It's not the content of the thoughts, it's about how we deal with our thoughts, and all the thoughts are allowed, all the thoughts are allowed to be here, but we are not staying with them. It's more like being able to think them and then we move them. I will send you it's a little exercise that I sometimes send to my clients. It's called the armchair exercise.
I know the armchair.
Yeah. So when you are in that contemplation phase and you are so aware of the thoughts are just circulating, you move them to the armchair and you take your 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and you move everything. And even though you think the armchair is not big enough, it's big enough. There is so much space. And you just move them. And the next thought comes and you move it. And the next thought comes. And there will be a lot of thoughts. There will be many, 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 many. But the learning from that exercise is that it's almost like an open valve of thoughts that are constantly popping from our unconscious or subconscious mind, and we move them. We are not judging them. We're not judging anything. Like, why am I thinking that? Why am I doing, why is this coming up? Like, what happened? These sort of judgments towards our thoughts will stop the more you are practicing the armchair exercise. And it takes time to practice because it's not something that we're used to doing. We usually like to stay clinging onto our thoughts, going in circles, especially when it comes about our kids. So many, many, many mothers do that because there's just so much. There's constantly something coming up with kids. They constantly trigger something in us. A thought, a feeling that comes up when they do something. When that thought comes up, it goes. It just goes. Because here, circling, it's not helping anyone. That thought actually is not helping you. But you know that. Because you're not finding a solution. But your mind is still trying to find a solution by looking at it from different angles. What is the behavior? What is the root cause? What is the communication? How can I do this better? What did I overlook? What if that happens in school? What if that happens again? How will this impact James? What about Maya when she's a bit older? I cannot have this. One thought leads to the other if you're not moving it. So you need to move it. And in the beginning, it will seem like it's not working because you still have those thoughts. They don't disappear.
That's the thing. Like I'm so aware because like I sit there and I'm like, what's going on? Because for me, thoughts are like little messages coming from the subconscious like, to your conscious state. And it's like every thought, it's like, hey, pay attention to me. So I'm like, okay, bring it to the front end.
Yeah.
And pay attention to it. Is it serving me? Is it, I'm but it's just constantly, it just spirals. That's where I feel like, why I can't, and it's with Luca.
Yeah.
I can do this with anything else, but when it comes to Luca, I'm like, it's a constant thing that comes constantly. And I'm like, I don't know how to shift it to thank you, but I don't need this right now.
Yeah.
Like, this is the problem. Like, I love the armchair exercise. I think it's great. It's dedicating that time every day to bring these thoughts to the front end.
But you're judging them. How, what do these thoughts mean, and why are they here? That's when you judge them. You don't judge them. They are here because of some experience you had when in your past. When something similar happened, it reminds you of something. But it's not now, it's not this, it's the past. These thoughts come because they're the past. They're triggered by past experiences, memories, feelings. So when you accept them, or when you kind of filter them, thinking, okay, this thought, what is it telling me? Yes, it is telling you something, but it has nothing to do with the present moment. The present moment is only the present moment, what you see, without the thoughts from the subconscious mind. And in the present moment, you're safe. There's nothing that needs to be fixed or done. In the present moment, in this very moment, all you have to do is just be. The thoughts that come are messages from your past, but they have nothing to do with Luca. The more you try to make sense of what is this thought telling me, what is it trying to show me, the more you're trying to link two lives, your life and his life, and they will never meet. So you will always go in circles. What your thoughts are yours, of course. What happened is Luca's. And because you come with 30 more years of experience than him, or 25 years more experience of him, you see everything from a different lens. And by you trying to make sense of it, like in that intensity that you're trying, you're not allowing the present moment, that space I was talking about, to be. You're filling it up with your thoughts. And that's why your thoughts need to go. Like, it's not important. The thoughts are good for here, for our sessions. The feelings are good for contemplating of where is it coming from and how does it link to me feeling in that moment a certain way when Luca triggers me. But there's very little space, and you get overwhelmed. Your system gets overwhelmed trying to meet the past in the present moment. You get migraines because you cannot do it. It's too much. So the thoughts are not messages for the present moment when something happens. They are for here, or for your journal, or for your phone. Sometimes I just make voice notes in my phone when it has, because I feel to release it verbally is different than to write it. Mm-hmm. So that's also a different thing. But it's really the gap between the past and the present moment that you're trying to bridge with your thoughts and your contemplation, and you can't. It's just not possible. And it's not leading you from the contemplation phase to the solution, which is what you as a doer, you want to have. You want to know the how, like what are the steps so that this doesn't happen anymore. And in this part of parenting, the doer needs to retire. The doer needs to take a step back, and the feeler needs to come forward. The feminine energy needs to come forward. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's really not good, but okay. Okay. It has nothing to do with how I am as a mother. It just is. Because he comes with his things, with his personality traits that are difficult sometimes.
Steph, hold on 2 seconds. Sorry, I could just hear her crying in the background. So what you're saying is I'm not accepting what's the situation is. I'm just trying to fix.
I don't think it's consciously. I think it's just it's a useful strategy that works usually in your life. Like you came so far, you've survived everything you survived because of the doing attitude. I just do, I move on. I cannot stay here in the present moment because that doesn't feel safe and I'm not well. So I'm moving. And because you had this attitude and that force for moving forward and the ability to remove your feeling side, you could put your feminine side to the back or on the side so that your masculine energy, which gives you force to move forward, moving through everything difficult that happened, and God knows you went through very difficult things, that helped you move forward, that helped you survive, that helped you to build the life you have today. And now you have a phase in your life where that feminine energy, that feeling, that being here and being okay with feeling it, feeling safe with feeling all of that, is needed because the masculine energy that moving forward is not helpful in this particular phase with Luca. Because he's in a developmental stage where he needs to build his feeling like bubble. He needs to learn himself and how he feels and what to do with these feelings. And that's difficult because especially with the aggressive behavior and the angry behavior, we just want to move forward. We just want to move on from there. We don't know, nobody wants to stay there. But in order to resolve that, we need to stay here for a bit. And I think,
how do I do that?
Yeah.
So if let's say he does something and I'm feeling angry and frustrated, how do I sit with the anger and frustration? I don't know. This is like you just said something, but I'm like, yeah, like with like breakups and things like that. I never sit and feel. I just move on. I'm like, okay, who's the next guy? Like, who's this? Who's that?
Yeah.
And I don't know how to sit with my feelings.
Yeah.
So how do I sit with them?
You do know when you are in the sauna and you meditate kind of thing.
Right.
So you have the ability. I'm not worried that you don't have the ability. However, when you are activated by certain behaviors that he has, like the aggressive behavior and the anger, and that is triggering your own anger. So if you can think of it that way, like when you were little, that is the little Jess in you who was not allowed or couldn't, because you had to move forward because it didn't feel safe. You didn't have that space to feel the anger, the disappointment, the sadness. So you moved on. You moved on. You had to move on. But now you're not living in the house anymore that, when you were 10, 5, or 15. That's done. You're now in these four walls where there's nobody, like literally nobody, that tells you, don't be like that. Don't feel that. Don't be such a fill in the blanks. Here, whenever you feel, I don't know what to do with this, like this is triggering me like so much. What is it that I'm feeling? Where am I feeling it? Make it like a somatic experience. I'm feeling it here. Okay. How does it look like? Like make it real in your mind. What we did already, like is it big? Is it small? What's the shape? What's the color? You really feel it like in a way of making sense of it. Feeling can often be, especially for people who didn't grow up safe with certain feelings, it can feel too abstract. It's like, I don't know what I feel. I just don't like it. The more you break it down in steps, and we can do that also together. This is where I feel it. This is how it looks like. Is it mine? It's the best question you can ask yourself. Is this mine? Am I feeling this because it's in me? It's me? Most of the time, it's not yours. But you gotta ask yourself that. Is it mine? Does it feel like mine? Is it like really deeply ingrained in me, or was it put into me because of someone else's response to how I felt? And most of the time it's like that, especially people who went through complex trauma like you did. Many different things on a long period of time. And very often, I'm also saying that, is that sitting in silence and meditating, or sitting in silence and feeling, feels triggering. It's because it doesn't feel very safe. So I don't want you to push yourself too much. If you don't feel comfortable, it can be because there is a stress reaction in your body, because staying in silence and staying here and being present can feel threatening. So it's a process. It's not something that you can just turn on, especially when you're not familiar with it. Saying out loud, I feel so angry now. I feel so angry. I am so hot. My head is spinning. I cannot think one straight thought. Is another thing you can do. Verbalizing and describing how you're feeling. And you can do that to Luca as well. Like when he's triggering you, Mommy's so angry now. I'm so angry. But you can say that without yelling, without being reactive to him. But I'm feeling so dizzy. You know, the anger is sitting in my head. I cannot think. I don't know what to do now. I think I need a moment. Maybe I need a whole set of moments, like 5 hours. I just don't know, baby. And you describe it. You describe others and yourself how you're feeling. And when you have a moment for yourself, you do the somatic, like describing the somatic experience. Where do I feel it? Is it here? Is it here? How does it look like? Is it similar to what I felt yesterday, or is it a different thing? But that's a process, and that's what you and I are working on. But I think what happens with Luca is that the relationship between the two of you would need more feeling space and less steps, because you're very good with steps and solutions. And whenever I tell you something, or I explain you something, you immediately are able to implement. You're very, very good with that. So that's excellent. And you're already seeing results with him and in his behavior and in how he's feeling with you. There is a doing, and then there's also the feeling that needs more space, because the solutions, you're very good. But when you feel these spinning thoughts, don't judge them. They are yours. They're not the present moment. They're not this now.
I feel like I don't, like, sometimes I don't know exactly what, I don't even know the difference between mad and angry.
Mm.
What's mad?
It's just a different level. Anger is more often linked to physical aggression, like when we feel we are so angry, like we want to yell, we want to get it out,
Mm.
we want to punch something, we want to kick the laundry basket, like whatever. That is more often linked to anger, but it's, of course, it's very different from person to person. And mad is not just the same level of reactiveness. Being mad is just something that happens 3-4 times a day to us. Being really, really angry, like really intense, doesn't happen so often. It happened when Luca choked that girl with a rope or tried that. It happens when you see him kicking someone, but then you get mad at certain situations.
I feel like the emotion that I feel when you describe it like that, I don't ever feel like I want to kick something or hit something, or I used to back then, back in the day. But now I feel like maybe I'm just mad. I'm very, very mad.
Mm-hmm.
When he did that, I just felt mad. Like I was just so, like, I want to say upset. Like, what's the difference between being upset and mad?
Yeah. What could be that you're feeling is that you are going through the layers and you are going to find the real reason of your mad, why you're mad and upset. Like when you used to feel really angry, there's very little space to contemplate of what's happening, why you're feeling that. When you're mad and upset, there's a little more space to contemplate on what is this? Is it mine? Or is it Lucas? Or is it someone else's? I think what I can hear is that you're already crushing the layers of the pain and the sadness.
What
I
do you
don't
mean?
know. What do you think?
Like I'm just putting myself back into the situation that, the other day, let's say. So I just need to sit there with myself and just describe the feeling, describe where it is, describe the emotion that I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then what?
And then you feel it.
What does that look like?
That's a good question. How does it usually look like for you when you feel it?
I just got emotional because I'm like, I don't think I let myself feel it. I'm always numbing it away. And before it was with weed. And now when I'm feeling upset, like yesterday when I felt upset, I just put on music. Like I'm like, all right, listen to music. Let's, sing a song. I don't ever feel it. I don't ever sit with the sadness, or I don't know how. That's why I'm like, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
So sit there and be sad.
Yeah.
I feel upset.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just upset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
And I feel like when I feel an emotion, that like a bigger emotion, I get very, not defensive, but like, yeah, like I'm like in this bubble where anything that's anybody says to me or does something, or I'm reactive. I'm more reactive. Like I'm like, that's just the way it is. Like I just, it's like I can see it clearly. I'm like trying to make myself feel safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's your defensive mechanism from the feeling. It's your what we call the inner child that is still activated and doesn't feel safe and is in pain and didn't have and because and that's because you didn't have anyone who you could go to with how you felt. So you had to deal with it alone, but then you couldn't because you were too young, and then you just shut it off because you didn't know what to do with it.
So
these big feelings are very scary. They are, but only for children or for adults who emotionally are still at a level of a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old.
it's like I could see myself sometimes when I am like in a mood. I call it in a mood.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I accept that I'm in the mood or in a mood. But when I'm like that, I'll trying to think, how can I feel it? What can I do to feel it? And I know I could feel the sadness, but I'll put friends on, I'll put music on, I'll start cleaning.
Mm-hmm. You're doing things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll just sit in the nothingness.
Yeah.
And what if Luca's around? Play with me, play with me, play with me.
You invite him into the nothingness.
What do I say?
I cannot do that now, baby. I have to sit here. Mommy is feeling in a mood, and I'm trying to figure out what that is. I don't know why is that. So I'm sitting here thinking, what does this remind me of? You can bring him into the conversation. Sometimes it's even nice to have someone to hear that. You don't make him like you're not burdening him with that. What you are doing is you are teaching him the path to understanding one's emotions. What is like the situation actually is not, nothing is unsafe. It's actually all good, but I didn't like this and that, what happened. Okay, fine. But why does it put me off so much? Why am I feeling so funky? And then you just sit and you feel it. And it might not come in the beginning. That's why RTT is great, because you feel it in the moment. You feel it immediately. The guard is off. So we could do an RTT on that. The RTT is great because there is no defense. You're just immediately feeling what you felt back then, which is the reason why you're doing what you're doing now. The guard is here, and like consciously, you cannot talk yourself into the feeling, but you have that guard up. When you are in an RTT session, you don't have that guard because you're 5 years old in the memory. The more aware you can become on mood and about the mood, the easier it will be for you to feel it. Not doing, like when you are in the mood, it's great to find coping mechanisms of what you can do to make yourself feel better, which is good for what we call the nervous system regulation. But you cannot jump the step. When we think of that linear, you always need that space to feel. You and Luca and everyone needs that. And in relationships, we need that. And then we can go into the contemplation, and then we can find a solution. But we always need to have that first step of feeling. And it's a practice, and it's definitely a safety issue, a safety thing. So it's not that you don't know how to do it, it's just that you are keeping yourself safe. But now you don't need anymore. But your inner child doesn't know that. And your emotional maturity is not that of an almost 30-year-old because of everything that happened, and you didn't have the chance to resolve it and to talk it through and to make sense of it and to feel well. It just, there was just not the environment for you to do that. And that's why in your family now, even though things are actually like, there's nobody who gets hurt, despite, I mean, the normal kids things, but there is no sexual assault, there is no hitting, like not in the sense that you were hit, there is no neglect, emotional neglect, there's no preference. These things don't exist between you and Adrian. It's completely different than between your dad and your mom. But you don't feel that because your inner child is still back at home, in your old home.
Can we do an RTT session on it?
Yeah, we could do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. The guard, the numbing, the protection. Yeah. Making note.